There are griefs we talk about, and there are the ones we carry quietly. The ones no one brings up anymore, or the ones we don't even realize we're holding until years later, and I mean decades. This episode is for the kind of grief that doesn't make to sympathy cards. It's for the daughter caring for a parent who's still alive, but not the same. It's for the love giver who's haunted by, I should have done more. It's for anyone who wonders why they're still sad, even when the world says they should have moved on. Today, we're naming the quiet grief, the delayed grief, the guilt soaked grief, the grief of loving someone who's still here but no longer who they used to be. Because even when grief gets quiet, it never really leaves. And maybe, just maybe, that's not something to fix, but something to finally honor. Let's start with the kind of grief that rarely gets acknowledged: grieving for the living. There are times when the person you love is still here, alive, breathing beside you, but they're not the same. Maybe it's dementia, maybe it's depression, maybe it's trauma, addiction, Alzheimer's, or even just time has really changed them. Whatever the reason, you find yourself mourning who they used to be while still showing up for who they are now. That grief is real. It's confusing, it's exhausting, and because there's no obituary, no funeral, no formal goodbye, people often don't understand why they feel so broken. But if this is you, please hear me out. You're not wrong for grieving someone who hasn't died. You're simply loving through the ache of what or who they used to be. So maybe we should ask ourselves, who are you still missing, even though they're still here? Let's talk about this grief that doesn't even wait for death. It shows up in all ways life changes. But even when it does follow a loss, society doesn't give us the space we truly need. And that brings me to the next quiet layer of grief: the pressure to move on. We live in a world that expects us to move on from a grief like it's a deadline that you need to do right away or tomorrow. But grief doesn't own a clock. There's no timer on your sorrow, no expiration date on your memories, no trophy for letting go faster. And honestly, moving on isn't always the goal. Sometimes healing means learning to live with the grief, not in spite of. You can still love the person you lost, still talk to them in your prayers, still cry on their birthday, and still live a beautiful, meaningful life. This is your grief, and it gets to move in you. Now, what part of your grief have you been hiding to make others feel comfortable? And yet, sometimes we don't even realize we're grieving until years later. Not everyone breaks down at the funeral. Some people stay strong, stay functional, stay quiet or silent until one day, a song, a smell, a memory, and suddenly they're undone. And this is what we call a delayed grief. Maybe you didn't cry at the funeral. Maybe you kept going because you had to, taking care of everyone else, doing what needs to be done. And now, months or years later, it hits you out of nowhere. Like I said, a smell, a song, a silence too loud. This is delayed grief, and it's real. And people ask me, how delayed is delayed? At least from my experience as a grief coach, I have dealt with clients whose delayed grief is 2 centuries, 20 years. It doesn't mean you don't love enough. It doesn't mean you're broken. Sometimes your heart protects you until it's safe enough to feel. Now, what loss are you only beginning to feel now? But sometimes when grief comes, it doesn't come alone. It brings a companion, it brings guilt, especially for those who give care or the love givers, those who made hard decisions, who loved someone all the way to the end and still wondered, did I do enough? Was it enough? Maybe you replay the last words you said. Maybe you wish you had visited more, noticed more, done something different. This is a grief I know too well. Because when my mother passed away, I realized I didn't spend as much time with her. I only saw her 2 or 3 times a year. But when she got sick, I was going home every week. And boy, did I feel guilty for that. This is that voice in your head that keeps whispering, I should have known, or I should have done better. But let me gently remind you, as I remind myself, you did the best you could with what you had and the time you had it. Guilt doesn't mean you failed, it means you loved, and that love is looking for somewhere to land. What if today that place is grace? Grief, guilt whispers in the quiet moments. I should have done more. I should have seen the signs. I should have been more patient, more kind, more present. Grief isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with tears or funerals. Sometimes it lives in the pause between moments, in the quiet ache of watching someone change, in the long silence after everyone stops asking how you are, in the guilt you carry even after doing your best. If anything in today's episode felt like you know this, you are not late to your grief. You are not broken because you're still hurting. You are not weak because you miss someone who's still alive. We grieve because we love. And when love is deep, grief lingers, not to haunt us, but to remind us someone, something mattered. So no matter how long it's been, no matter how quiet your sorrow, you are allowed to feel it. You are allowed to honor it. And you are allowed to heal in your own time. If this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who may still be grieving in silence. Let's create a world where quiet grief is not forgotten, but held with compassion. I'm Charity, your life doula, and until next time, may you find the courage to stay soft in a world that rushes healing. You're not alone. Better days are still possible.